come once again to discuss things.
Yeah, it should be. And on that note, hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Steve Baxi.
Hello, everybody.
And there is a potential, as always, for Milan to join the call. We never know with him.
That's true. It's very true.
But we've waited over an hour, so hour and a half. So we're going ahead and starting without you, Milan. All right. So, Steve, what are we talking about this week?
Unless plans have changed at the last minute, I believe we were talking about social media's effect on geek culture.
Yes, and I mean, I'm not sure how long we could possibly go on this, but we're going to try to get at least an hour out of this.
Yeah, there's just the two of us, so there's ample time to go between like 45 minutes to an hour if we just do back and forth.
Yeah, and if we only make it to like 45 minutes or so, we'll go ahead and just talk about something else that like pops into our heads at the time.
Yeah, and it's a narrow topic, but it's one that's got a lot of seeds in other places.
Yeah, and I think that's what's interesting about it.
Like we talked about hipsterism before we even started this episode, and I'm sure that could come back with social media.
Yeah, big time. All right, so I'm trying to think of a good place to start, and I think the best way is can you think of a specific example in which social media affected your enjoyment or your ability to consume something geeky?
Positive or negative?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, I think I might do both, actually, because it's the same franchise, and I think it's a perfect example of how social media can be both a good thing and a bad thing. We'll start with the bad, because I like ending on good notes. Dark Knight Rises, when that came out, I saw it opening weekend, but a couple people, of course, saw it early. And through social media, you realize that if you're a comic book person, you're in that realm, that within a weekend, there will be spoilers everywhere. It's just impossible. If you want to go into something clean, you have to watch it the weekend it comes out, or you'll be spoiled. Because that's just how Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr or whatever else you use works now. Like, even if you went to see Guardians of the Galaxy on opening day, you would have been spoiled on what Thanos looks like, because they posted it on Twitter.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go with that example.
Oh, I could have, now that I mention it, but no. But Dark Knight Rises, there were reviews of it like a week before it came out, and there were people that you could see over Twitter and Facebook and Rotten Tomatoes and stuff blasting and giving death threats to anyone who didn't like that movie. And when I came out and didn't like it, and when I first saw it, it's not like I hated it, I just didn't like it. I was a little let down because I really love The Dark Knight. And when I went online and I posted something to the effect of, I'm not really enjoying Dark Knight Rises. It's not my kind of movie or something like to that effect. I got a flood of angry letters and a flood of angry tweets and a flood of angry messages with death threats and all of that. And it makes it really hard to enjoy something when your opinion is counter to the popular. Because it used to be kind of more tolerable. It used to be something that was a bit easier. If you didn't like something popular, that's fine. You had a circle of friends that kind of supported your opinion, and it would be a bit simpler. And even if you didn't have friends that supported your opinion, it wouldn't get out of hand. But with the internet, with the fact that you can just upload your opinion so quickly, and so many people can read it, it makes you really worry about what you can say and what you can't. And it almost makes you subconsciously censor yourself, because you think, well, I didn't like this, and everyone loved it, so I'm not going to post anything because I don't feel like dealing with angry comments. And that's kind of a problem. Me and Alex were talking about like reviewing Man of Steel and Iron Man 3, and one of our biggest problems is that we have to inject counter-arguments to our points before we make our points, just because there's such a huge counterculture against what we like or what we don't like. And that's something that's made geeks a bit more violent, maybe not violent, but more aggressive than they used to be, and more kind of more fanboyish, if I could use that word, and maybe properly defined later in this conversation. A more positive example would be like the viral marketing for Dark Knight, and how well Christopher Nolan and WB used the internet, and used how quickly things circulate, and used how memes work to get everyone hyped for the Joker in that movie. That's probably still considered like one of the best examples of advertising. Guardians of the Galaxy is another good example, where you release just enough, and you release just enough chunks, and you only get basic premises out of what you release, and the internet's ablaze with theories and ideas, and ultimately, if you do it well, you can pull off a really big surge, you can get people really excited, just because you're able to give everyone as little information as possible in an age where we demand a lot of information.
Okay. Two really good examples. Man, sorry, I had to move, so Steve had to kind of stretch that one.
I did. I could have like shortened it by a minute. I was just rambling. No, go ahead.
All right, so since you had to, I'm going to start with the positive one because I like to end on a negative note because that's a metaphor for life.
You should watch True Detective. It's the exact opposite of what you just said.
Alright, so I guess I'll start with the positive one, and it's actually related to this show.
Cool.
I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name because, I'm pretty sure it's Spanish. Actually, I usually have pretty good pronunciation with Spanish, even though I don't know what the hell I'm saying, but anyway. Ginacilo Villalba? Guy that worked on Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Green Lantern, the animated series. You know who I'm talking about?
Vaguely. If I read his name, it would come to mind quicker than if I just, thought about it.
Alright, well, in any case. Son of a bitch.
You're talking about the animated series Clone Wars, not the, Genndy Tartakovsky one, right?
Yeah, the 3D animated shows.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, one sec. I am Milan tonight, apparently. That's what's going on.
Oh, well, that's completely okay. If you need me to stretch about things, I totally can do it.
No, I got it. I just had to turn a bunch of shit off because I had to move to the basement. Anyway, alright, so Ginacilo Villalba, I'm gonna say it that way, even though it's wrong. He was co-producing Green Lantern, the animated series, with Bruce Timm, but he was really the main producer on that one.
Such a good series, by the way.
Love it. Absolutely adore it. So we did a review of what I call the first season, which is, the first 13 episodes. There's that whole thing. We did a review of that well before the second season had started. And once again, 13 episodes. If you know what I'm talking about, then fine. I'm not going to explain it because it's too tangential. So we did a review of the first season of Green Lantern, the animated series, on this show. And he retweeted it and favorited that tweet, and favorited, our, Geeky Gentleman, Green Lantern, the animated series.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he is really active on Twitter, and he's, always, talking to the fans and stuff. And so, that episode has a lot of views because of him. And it's not like he just saw it, Green Lantern, the animated series podcast, and hit retweet. Because he was actually quoting lines from it. Like one of the guys that was on at the time who we don't talk to anymore for very specific reasons, asked him, though, and he was like, so what'd you think of, my joke about the Flintstones? And he goes, it's a living. And so, he'd quoted, an exchange we had, not at the beginning of the episode, but, 45 minutes in. So it's just, really just... I've never felt so happy about something like that before, though.
Oh, that's really cool.
Just that someone that was involved in creating the thing that we were talking about and that we all enjoyed so much felt the need to not only watch us talk about it, but share that video around. Just was so special to me. I mean, he cares about his show, obviously, but he also, cares that we know he watched it. And I think that I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really, really cool guy. I really like him, and I've sent him a couple other things that I did, my Death Star versus Mogo video, and he enjoyed that.
Oh, he sounds like a nice guy, though.
Yeah, really cool dude. So that's my positive experience with social media and geek culture. All right. Now my negative experience. Trying to think exactly what to go with here. I guess I'll just pick kind of like a general thing because I can't think of something incredibly specific right now. But I don't know if this is positive or negative, I guess. This is kind of neutral. So I was really excited for Green Lantern when it was coming out.
The film?
Yeah. Like, that was one I was really looking forward to. And then, week before it came out, all the, early reviews kept coming out. And I'd done my best not to watch any trailers or clips or anything. But man, those opening reviews were really fucking harsh. And it really lowered my expectations for that movie in a big way. I was like, oh man, this is gonna suck. No, I'm so sad. I don't want this to suck now. And then I ended up still really enjoying it because it was just kind of like a, fun movie, and I still really think the visuals work, and I end up really enjoying the movie, but it really did kind of like, break my heart for a couple seconds when I started reading all the early reviews. So that I guess that's my negative one, is that it can really like, sour you to what you're about to get into.
That's interesting. If I could just jump on that really quick, it's weird because I saw all the trailers for Green Lantern, I saw all the clips, and I was really, really excited for that movie. I didn't see any opening reviews. I had no idea it was bad until I sat down in the theater, all pumped with my Green Lantern rings, a green t-shirt, and green shoes, and then I'm like, holy shit, this sucks. So my expectations were so high, they had nowhere to go but down. And then with Winter Soldier, when that came out, I was so hyped for it, and it lived up to it, and now it's like one of my favorite movies of all time. And that's mostly because the early reviews were so good on it and so positive. So that's
interesting. Weird. So no, like I think social media can really have that chance to. It cuts both ways, really. It can like just take everything out of your like experience with it. I'm trying to think of how to say this. All right, New 52. I think New 52 is a good way to go for this, because say what you will about New 52 in and of itself, the marketing for that on social media was fucking genius. They had some of the best comic book sales for every book in years when they first launched. And I completely attributed that to their marketing and social media campaign.
It's weird you say that, because their marketing strategy, as far as I've studied it, is really just a whole bunch of new number ones that never had a number one in like 75 years. And that's not much of a technique as much as it's like the same shock value that we're getting with like Superman versus Batman marketing, which is just you're selling it on the very bare bones of what it is and not making people think more about it. That bugs me as far as like good marketing, but you're right in that it's successful. So I guess that's a weird definition of good or how that works.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I think some of the stuff that they did, like not just the number one, but like you remember the pseudo motion comic-y thing that came out that they did?
The trailer thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. It was all over the internet.
Yeah, that was really big. That was getting spread everywhere, and that's one of the things that really excited people. Because at first they were like,
they had commercials in the theater.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know about Superman's like jeans and stuff, but once you saw it in motion, something about it just worked. Which I don't know if that's a good thing since the comic books are not in motion, but
well. Maybe the one thing New 52 is lacking is motion comics.
Yeah, maybe New 52 is genius. You just don't know it because it's not with motion comics.
That DC logo would be genius if it moved.
Yeah, if you could go like a flip book with it.
Yeah, like if it actually peeled off, like it does in movie theaters sometimes, it would work so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like the new DC logo.
I don't either. I miss the old one, but...
Well, in 75 years they'll change it.
Oh, I miss the old school one, man. The one with like Superman on it.
Okay. No, but I think New 52 really did serve to show how much of a force you can have with social media, and that that could have gone so badly. You could have had nothing but fanboys complaining about the fact that they're rebooting continuity, but the way they marketed that move worked really well, and it saved off the fanboys complaining until after it come out and all the issues had sold.
The New 52 was one of those really hotly debated things because it got them sales, and it worked in that sense. But there's a lot of room for debate on where the disagreement started and where the loss of enjoyment started. Because my whole thing with that was, you've effectively ruined my reading experience of every book until September 2011, because I know they're all just going to get prematurely canceled now.
Actually, oddly enough, I really enjoyed a lot of the books up until the New 52. Not talking about like the Flashpoint stuff. Even though I hate Guy Gardner. In particular was Green Lantern Emerald Knights, which was basically just the Guy Gardner book.
Right.
And it had wrapped up like this, story arc had been doing since its beginning, I think 3 months before relaunch, right?
Right.
But they had to fill 3 more issues. They didn't want to cancel the book early. So they did one of the things I wish more comics would do, which was one and done stories.
Well, I guess to be fair, Green Lantern's one of those things in the New 52 that didn't even really reboot.
No, but still, like, this was Guy Gardner. It had nothing to do with anything at all. It was just Guy Gardner in his own little book that was not going to get brought into New 52. And so for their last 3 issues, they just did one and done stories. And I miss that about comic books now. I love, Grant Morrison as much as... Well, not the next guy, because the next guy's likely to hate Grant Morrison. Unless you're the next guy.
If I'm the next guy.
As much as Steve. I love Grant Morrison as much as Steve, but not as much as Milan. And I love the crazy extended continuities and, like, the really big events sometimes. Little asterisk there. I love the really big events, but I miss self-contained 22-page stories. And it did that, and I really enjoyed a lot of the things that were done in the old 52 right before relaunch. Because it was just the writers having fun. So.
See, okay, I guess you had a better experience than I did, because, if you were reading Secret Six, and you realized that book was getting canceled, and it was nowhere near it done its run. Every issue just felt progressively worse, because it wasn't getting bad in quality. You just saw, how disheartened Gail Simone was over what was happening, and that no matter how good the issue was in itself, it was never going to get picked up again, and it wasn't going to mean anything. The same thing with, what other book was I reading pre-New 52? Green Arrow wasn't that great before pre-52, or New 52, but a lot of people had the same experience with that. The Red Robin book, some of the Batman and Robin stuff, even Grant Morrison's run, which was prematurely cut, and then it had a huge pause in between.
Yeah, there was a year before Batman began, or Batman Inc. got picked back up again?
Something like that, yeah. But it really did kind of hinder the first couple issues of its relaunch because there was so much stuff that they had to juggle with because of New 52. And it made the issues before that less enjoyable because you knew it was only half a story and you may never ever get the original plan for the second half. And we didn't, really. Grant Morrison even admits in those issues that it's not what he was meant to do. It's because of New 52 that it was cut that way.
Yeah, it's what was that, Leviathan Attacks, was it?
Leviathan
the
Strikes.
Book that came out in New 52, but was, they had put the little asterisk, this takes place before the events of Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy that they even let him publish that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and it makes me wish that they could have just had that asterisk with every Batman Incorporated issue preceding it, because it had to feed into the current continuity. He had to do a lot of the things that just lead into other writers' runs, and he didn't enjoy going back to the dark, broody Batman after he spent like 5 years getting out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's way off topic.
Though to be fair, fucking Batman Man Bat was amazing.
Oh, it was totally amazing. But so back to the topic at hand. What points did you want to go to about social media?
All right. So like, I think one thing that like we can jump off of my really positive experience is social media provides something very unique that the fans had never really had before, with the exception of conventions. And that is direct access to the people that are writing or like creating the things that you're enjoying as a geek. And this obviously goes for anyone in the entertainment industry that has a Twitter or a Facebook account.
Yeah.
But geeks seem to have their own little personal thing because the authors and the artists are geeks themselves and like geeking out with the other geeks, so they seem more like likely to do it, to interact with the fans.
Oh yeah, that's completely true. Gail Simone, Stephen Amell, how much they embrace like internet memes, how fun they are to follow.
Oh yeah, right. It's just crazy. Like, that's never happened before. Like, the only chance you would have ever had to, like, you know, talk with Jeff Johns or whatever, you know, pick your poison, is to have gone to a convention, waited in line, and then maybe get 2 minutes of conversation while he signs a bunch of crap.
And it gives from like the writer's perspective, it gives them a bit of humility too, right? Like, they're able to laugh at themselves at that point. They realize that there were a bunch of people that care about their work, and that's why they're a success, and it makes them more human, and a lot of times it makes their stories better. Just because Gail Simone enjoys hearing what fans have to say, her issues of like Red Sajona and stuff like that are more fun. When you read like Ed Brubaker's stuff, and he enjoys getting the fan reactions and the thrills, he makes those books that he's writing like Fatale so much more thrilling that way, and he doesn't come off as like pompous like Alan Moore.
Yeah, and like I think that social media has actually led to, I mean, it's not gone completely, but more or less the death of the letters page, because you don't need it anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
You can just, like, I mean, that's still fun, and I still like when they show that, but you don't need it anymore. You can just, like, tweet at the author, what the hell were you thinking with this?
And they will give you a lengthy explanation if they like your question, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? And like, it's just fun to be able to directly talk to these people now. And, you know, obviously some of them don't have accounts. I still don't understand that people think that they need to understand Twitter. Like people just go, I don't get what Twitter is. Like, it's like a phone that you know when you're like on your phone and you're bored, so you text a bunch of your friends a random thought that you had. That's Twitter. That is all Twitter is random text message, meaningless conversation. It is the social media equivalent of writing on a bathroom wall, okay?
Maybe a little bit more glamorous than that.
Well, no, because I think that's the highest form of art.
Okay. It's like writing on the Berlin Wall.
No, writing on the bathroom wall, because it bears no chance of personal recognition or financial gain. Highest form of art.
Okay. I'll see where you're going. I can respect that.
I don't know if I'd say, like, that's what I need. I need a museum full of bathroom walls.
Well, postmodern art, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get your swastikas, but also every so often you get your little poop poems, and those are fun.
Of course.
Here I sit all broken-hearted, came to shit, but only farted. So a lot of effort goes into that.
Definitely.
Anyway. So no, like, I don't understand why people don't think that they need to get Twitter. That sentence made no sense. I don't understand why people think that they need to understand Twitter. It's just something you do. And it, like, breaks my heart that some people don't have a Twitter because they would be so good at it. Like David Tennant.
Oh, he doesn't have a Twitter?
Like, there's a Twitter account that says @DavidTennant, but, you know. It's like, at best, it's an agent or something, which is not the same thing. Like, honestly, that's something we'll get into, is just the, like, you know, the sharing out of a Twitter account or whatever you want to call it, or Facebook account. Yeah, it really just annoys the hell out of me, because it's not, it eliminates the point. You know, you don't want to sell out your Twitter account, goddammit. And Twitter's going to be the main focus for me, because, like, I don't consider YouTube a social network.
Well, I mean, back when video responses were still a thing.
Yeah, but guess what? There's a reason they took them away.
Those bastards. Anyway.
Don't you shut your whore mouth, Steve Baxter.
I know, I don't want to defile the Google gods before they take my internet away for good.
Exactly. No, but, like, I consider Twitter the best social media thing. I refuse to get a Facebook for the simple fact that I refused to get a MySpace account, and eventually it became cool to delete your MySpace account, so I'm just going to skip the whole Facebook thing, too.
Well, we haven't had anything that replaced Facebook yet, so we'll see.
I don't know. I don't think it's like... I just don't think it's going to last. It doesn't have anything that you can do anymore, because...
Well, no, it's not going to last at all, but, like, it hasn't been replaced yet.
Yeah, like, Facebook games are dropping off, but I think Twitter has staying power, because people are going to want to be able to keep doing this. Like, you know, just, let me share my thoughts with the world. Like, that was kind of the most popular feature of Facebook, was just the ability to, like, share a random thought with all your friends. And Twitter was like, now you could share a random thought with everyone. And it's like a contest to see who can get the most followers and everything. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because Twitter, a lot of people's problems with it is that the 140 character limit is too short, but at the same time, it almost forces people to become better writers because they have to be more brief and more direct about things.
Exactly, it's like a challenge.
Yeah, and like people don't always utilize it that way, like we have really bad internet grammar, but then you get people like Joss Whedon on there that tell whole stories in 140 characters, and you don't know how he did it, but he did.
Well, like, dude, you have no idea how hard I had to try to get Milan to get a Twitter account.
Really? It seems like he'd be perfect for it.
Exactly, he would not fucking do it, ever. Like, it took me months and months of Milan, get a Twitter. Milan, get a Twitter. Milan, get a Twitter account. And finally he did it, and then he didn't use it for months and months and months. And guess what? Now he's fucking addicted. Now I have not... It rarely happens that I go a day without seeing Milan tweets.
Wow.
And he's so good at it, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's his perfect thing. It's just random stream of consciousness thoughts all day, every day. It's to people who may or may not care.
Exactly. And it's so fucked up and funny. Like, some of the things Milan just says are totally worth just tweets. I mean, I can go back through some of my older tweets where I just fucking quote him. And just say, Milan Jeftik, because he wouldn't get a Twitter account, and I just thought it was too funny. My penis is perfectly average size!
What's also really cool is that geek culture is also known for being overly critical, and we have a lot of review communities now. So Twitter lets you have really short, brief reviews. Like today I just spent the whole day talking about Deadshot Beginnings, the miniseries from the 80s. And it's fun to, like, just sit down and read something, give really quick initial thoughts, and you don't have to do the old thing of, like, blog posts, you write entire paragraphs on it. Everything is just spur of the moment to write as you read it. It feels like a really pure reaction.
Yeah, no, like, I really like that stuff. As someone that really likes phenomenology, I think Twitter is amazing at that. I think Twitter is an experiment in phenomenology.
Yeah, there's a study to be made there.
Yeah, because, like, the thing that seems to happen is, admittedly, it's first world problems, but that's because that's where the majority of its market is. what I see happen a lot is that someone will tweet something and it'll get retweeted like crazy because it's so damn relatable. And to connect this to geek culture, when someone like reads a like when there's dislike of a movie, to go back to what we were saying earlier, it spreads all over the place because suddenly everyone can relate to it and everyone has the exact same thought and everyone's competing with each other to try to get like the perfect 140 character summation of the film. You know?
Yeah.
Good or bad, they're competing with each other to try to summarize it perfectly. And then you get some really clever stuff, like, even though I like Dark Knight Rises, one of the funniest fucking tweets I read about that movie was, I probably would have liked Dark Knight Rises more if Batman had been Batman at the beginning of the movie, Batman had been Batman at the middle of the movie, and Batman had been Batman at the end of the movie. And that's so fucking funny to me.
And it's a good exercise of using that 140 character limit. It really stretches what you're thinking and it gets right to the heart of the thing, which is great.
Yeah, it what is that Shakespeare line? Brevity is the soul of wit?
Yes.
I mean, that's what Twitter is to me. And, you know, obviously some people don't do it right.
Well, yeah, and even like more contemporary, like Stephen King always says that the more direct you are in a sentence means that you're more confident in what you're saying. And that's definitely true, because you do get some really, really polarizing opinions on Twitter. And that just adds to the conversation, but at least it's something you're not afraid to express, and at least it's something that's not completely censored.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for it. Like, a professor of mine, after I hounded him to get on Twitter, and apparently that's all I do to people is just make them get Twitter accounts.
Evidently.
I hounded him to get on Twitter, and when he finally did, he was like, oh, this is actually brilliant. I'm going to actually start incorporating Twitter into my class. I'm like, how? You can only give answers when I ask you questions in class. You have to give me tweet-length answers. Because that's such a... Well, no, but that's such a good thing with philosophy, because people spend so much time getting wrapped up in the counter-arguments and the ideas behind it and the context of the thing, and they never really get to the question. And so, to try to answer a question from a philosophical background very quickly, very short answers, is perfect, because it makes you understand what you're talking about so much more.
I guess my counter to that would be, sure, you can get to the heart of your opinion really quickly, but philosophy at the same time is about understanding your own opinions. It's about a reflective equilibrium. So to just have really quick answers on Twitter kind of hinders you having to sit and talk about it and really give a lengthy response, because it demands you rationalizing it to yourself as well as the person next to you.
Well, no, that's not the only thing he would have you do, but like when he wanted a direct answer, when he wanted someone to directly try to get out what they were thinking about this thing, he would ask you to get a tweet version of it, and then I'm trying to think how he put it. Your thesis should be a tweet, and then the rest of the paper can be your argument. Your thesis should be a tweet. Yeah. And that in paper form and in class discussions, he'd be like, say what you're going to say in a tweet, and then say what you're going to say. Because too often we get distracted in philosophy by the tangential things we need to talk about to get at the idea.
Yeah, and of course we were talking about this before, like Martin Heidegger and stuff like that. Even Kant.
Well, yeah,
like,
we spend
really long-winded about things that don't need to be there.
Like, alright, let's actually get into Heidegger real quick, because like this is something about him that I find hilarious.
Okay.
So his big book, the one that he's most famous for, Being and Time.
Right.
You ever notice that, like, he never talks about time? He only talks about being? So, Heidegger, in writing like Heidegger, never gets into the second thing that's in his title, because he spends so much time on the other shit just trying to make his one point. And it's like, it's not that complicated a point, really.
No, it's not. And you were talking about before also like principle of reason, which is reading it is a chore because he doesn't need to be as long as it is, but when you get to the end and you finally realize what he's actually saying about reason, that it makes sense, and you didn't need the whole book to explain it.
Exactly. And it's one of the things, it's a pain in the ass, but it's an experience.
Yeah, like one of Kant's biggest problems is that he feels he needs to relate everything to everything else, and no he doesn't. That's where his detriment is.
Well, like, Kant and Hegel were both trying to finish philosophy, which, just, general note to anyone out there, you will never finish a field of thought, or any war on a noun, for that matter. Just general piece of advice, okay? No field of study or thought will ever be finished, so, keep that in mind when you're writing your shit. But let's go ahead and get back to geek culture. Let's finish geek culture, Steve. I'm gonna write the comic book, finish geek.
Let's write the treatise on geek culture and just end the debate.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe something I wanted to mention, because I mentioned how thoughts can be uncensored and censored in social media, and how thoughts can also be aggressive. I mentioned this thing earlier, which is that Twitter, it's great because you don't have to censor yourself. It can be a really pure opinion. But at the same time, it can be the opposite, which is you don't feel like dealing with a response to an opinion. So you force yourself to not talk about it, and that becomes a problem because fans become really aggressive. And if you don't like something they like, or if you don't like something that a majority of people like, it's much easier to get gut reaction, angry thoughts out than it used to be, where people could just calmly think about it and not resort to personal attacks the way they do now.
Yeah, it's interesting, because, like, I'm sure you've had the experience of walking into a comic shop when it's busy and hearing things like, no, you don't understand, he destroyed the Rainbow Bridge with Mjolnir after defeating the Skrulls. I'm sure you've heard that before, that specific statement, right?
I have, but that doesn't make any sense at all. What? Did they even watch those movies? What?
No, they weren't talking about the fucking movies. They were talking about some random-ass comic that involved Thor.
I was thinking, like, wait, how could you destroy the Rainbow Bridge and then fight the Skrulls before that if the Skrulls didn't show up until after the Rainbow Bridge was destroyed? What?
Yeah, no, they're talking about a comic.
Okay. That must have been like the Matt Fraction Thor or something.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, I just remember walking into a comic book store, and that's the first thing I hear. And, like, I look at the guy, and I go, someone paid you to say that. I want you to understand this. Someone is giving you money to say that. You should be very grateful. But no, like, that, the whole geek argument thing, that's all comic book shops, like, communities really are built on, is just sitting there and, arguing and enjoying arguing about the really ridiculous shit that goes on in fucking comic books.
Yeah, that's part of the fun, honestly.
Yeah, like, I remember, I have a friend who's, like, kind of, like, 1 foot in, 1 foot, sticks his toe in geek culture, but never, is always too afraid to go all the way. And so, like, one conversation I had with him was, like, whether or not Batman could defeat Dr. Manhattan.
What?
And, like, he starts getting really fucking frustrated with me. He's like, I'm done. I'm like, no, I want to argue about this. It's like, no, fuck it. Neither of them are real, Ian.
Neither of them are real. That's hilarious.
Like, I know that, but we knew that going into this.
That reminds me of there's a debate in Angel, where Spike and Angel, the scene is basically, there's a whole bunch of yelling coming out, and they're like, you don't think the human race has evolved after 10,000 years? Or he's like, well, we're talking about something primal and emotional, something about the instincts of human beings. And then someone shows up and says, you've been arguing for like 20 minutes, what is this about? And Angel goes, if cavemen and astronauts had a fight, who would win? It's perfect because we do overcomplicate very simple things that probably shouldn't matter.
It is really great. I mean, the classic is the Superman-Batman debate, but, it's just, who it wins are so much fun.
They are ridiculously fun.
if you really want a great time, either go to Screw Attack and watch some of the death battles, or if you're the reading type, go to Comic Vine and go to the battles forum. Oh my god, they get so ridiculous.
And those Screw Attacks. I saw the Goku versus Superman one. Didn't agree with it all. They were using inconsistent evidence.
Yeah, I still don't. I think the reason Superman loses that fight is because he doesn't know how to fight.
No, he. Yeah.
Like, Superman should never know how to fight because he should never have needed to learn how to. Whereas Goku didn't start out, Superman levels. Anyway.
Yeah.
See, we're getting into it, and this is the problem. No, but so I think that, to your point though, it's really easy to be aggressive first, but that's because geek argument is just such a central part of geek culture.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That I think the idea of getting aggressive is just kind of a disconnect of the technology and the culture.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to argue with people because you can't see them anymore.
Well, no, not just that. I think one big thing, and I forget who said this, but there desperately needs to be a sarcasm font. And a lot of tone is lost in textual form, particularly on things like Twitter or Facebook, where you don't have unlimited amounts of, words you can write,
Yeah, but I think I would almost go back to you with that and say, well, that's just part of the challenge of writing on short formats or writing in general to communicate thoughts on social media, which is you have to come up with a way to write your tone. Like, you'd have to be the author of your work, like Stephen King or Joss Whedon or whatever, and convey your tone through your word choice, and that's a challenge, and that makes people smarter. Problem is people don't think about it like that.
At a certain point, it doesn't matter how much thought you put into a thing. At a certain point, someone's still going to interpret it as more hostile than you intended.
No, yeah, of course. The thing I really want to mention now that we're on aggression and kind of censoring your opinions is that we do go overboard, and it's a problem. Because there's the Dark Knight Rises death threats, which is a really easy one to go to. But my favorite one is there's this giant divide and this big Marvel versus DC thing going on solely because Avengers and Dark Knight Rises came out in the same year, and people think that they need to pick sides, and they don't. And that really hurts a lot of the discussions you can have about either company. You say anything bad about DC, and they'll call you a Marvel fanboy, or vice versa. And that's not how it is. You can't have an intelligent discussion and say, I didn't enjoy this movie just because people assume it's because of company loyalty.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is I feel like I'm, as a guy who's more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, I feel like I'm always put, no matter how much I like a Marvel movie, I always find myself I have to criticize it, because otherwise everyone's going to just praise the hell out of it, and I need to, just kick its knees out from under it. And I use YouTube to do that, as the Guardians of the Galaxy review that I just uploaded will show. Plug. So if anyone wants to hear, overly negative but still, happy review of Guardians of the Galaxy, go ahead and check that out. Let me just say, I did enjoy the movie quite a bit, but I point out the flaws in Marvel movies simply because I feel like someone has to.
And you see, that's not the mindset I think people, especially because we're critics, we should have. We should go in and judge it on its own merits, because it's a film on its own, and it may be part of a franchise, but company loyalty and fan perception shouldn't be the thing that guides us in our criticism.
I don't think it guides me. I just I will always say that I enjoyed the movie more than I disliked it, but I just feel someone has to be the bad guy, Steve.
Well, yeah, that's okay. I just mean we're gonna get people that are overly positive, and we're gonna get people that are overly negative, trying to compensate for each other instead of people just being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think that I was honest, but I did feel the need to point out the negatives, simply because it needs to be acknowledged that there are negatives there.
No, I agree with
like
you. I'm
that's
just
done
saying,
enough. Especially, I don't think that's done enough, especially with the Marvel films.
And yeah, and I would put that back on DC as well. But like, the overarching point would just be that this is a mindset of like someone needs to be the bad guy or someone needs to be the good guy that has to go away.
Fair enough. Let me get back to this though, because you said you put that back on DC. I feel like there's a much more public just dislike of the DC films since Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Just like there's a lot of like. It doesn't seem to matter what they announce about Batman vs. Superman. Everyone's mad.
And I think there's legitimate reasons to be mad about that project. But it doesn't mean that you should go in hating it. Like, there's a difference between criticizing it and just hating it to be vindictive.
Yeah, fair enough. But, like, it seems like everyone's mad about anything DC announces now. I'm like, where is this all coming from? And, like, every single turn and decision Marvel makes gets praised, and that annoys the hell out of me. Because they're not perfect movies. You know?
Okay, yeah. Maybe just to kind of address that debate, it's because Marvel has proved themselves in a way DC hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that Marvel, regardless of some of their movies having problems, like Iron Man was a hit, and I will always say that, yeah, it's a hit, but it has huge plot issues that no one seems to talk about. And that's because it does other things right. But besides the point, they prove themselves with the fact that they can announce something, and they can put it into production, and they can release it really quickly, and then they can improve on it and do things differently. Captain America 1 and Captain America 2 are movies that are nowhere near the same genre, but completely connect with each other and work. And same with, like, Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a movie that's nothing like Avengers, but it works on the level of Avengers, and Avengers is something totally different. Between 2008 and 2014, we have 10 Marvel movies, and every couple of years, DC announces a thing and we never see it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes back to Green Lantern.
Well, I mean, like, even before Green Lantern, they had a Justice League movie that was already cast and ready to film that they just stopped production on.
Yeah, but, like, the thing with Green Lantern was, it was going to be the first movie they made after the Harry Potter franchise that was going to start their, like, you know, shared universe thing.
Right.
And it underperformed like crazy. It made its budget back, but just barely. So it underperformed. It wasn't a loss. That's the thing I always like to point out. It was not a loss. It underperformed, and Warner Brothers just suddenly had no idea what to fucking do. And I think that's, like, one of the big things that happened to, like, really change the way in which Warner Brothers has approached it and made their approach to the superhero franchise very incompetent.
Yeah.
I'm excited about every bit of news we get from the Batman Superman movie. I don't know what the hell everyone's problem is, but
and honestly, we don't have to go into the numerous problems in that here, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and get back to social media, because I don't know, that's the thing. Like, every time I hear something about that movie, I'm like, oh, awesome, and then everyone's like, oh, they're shoving Wonder Woman down our throats. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, I was watching Deadpoolzilla and Pop Culture Diva were in a video together, and you know, I've heard this girl talk about how she wants a Wonder Woman to be in the DC universe, you know, finally show her in movies. And then when it was finally announced that Wonder Woman would be in Batman vs. Superman, she's like, oh, they're just shoving Wonder Woman down our throats. I'm like, what's happening?
That's a dumb argument, but I've wanted Wonder Woman movie forever, and I hate the fact that she's going to be in Batman vs. Superman. Okay,
whatever. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, it's just because it's a really stupid ploy. But besides the point yet again. But yeah, we're trying to get to the nitty-gritty of this aggressive geek culture and the censorship of opinions and stuff. And, like, I'm working on this review of the Dark Knight trilogy that I've wanted to do for a really long time. And the problem I keep running into is that, and Alex is working on Iron Man 3 and Man of Steel, and this problem we keep running into is that in order to convey our opinion and in order to make our case, we have to spend ridiculous amounts of time to clear the air and set up a counter argument to every possible point we could make before we make them. And that's not really how a review should work, and it's only there because we have this really involved geek community that, to some extent, is too involved. Like, we get fanboys, and fanboys used to be a really generic term, and now it's a derogatory term because there are levels of fans that are just impossible to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love Avengers as much as the next guy, but it's not the greatest movie in the universe. And I love The Dark Knight as much as the next guy, but it's not the greatest movie in the universe.
Really, what is?
Well, I don't think anything's the greatest movie in the universe, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, no, like, you can't say that, you can't lead with that.
Even if people like Dark Knight Rises, they have to admit that it has problems, and they can't just attack people over the fact that they don't like it without realizing that they were making legitimate arguments, and vice versa. Because Dark Knight Rises has good things about it too, and you can't just hate it because you hate it. And again, that's a lot of that might have to do with like the shortening of opinions and not having a lot of reflective equilibrium with Twitter and Facebook, which is you can just post really pure opinions and not have to think about them until people argue with you, and then you feel like you have to defend a point without admitting you're wrong.
I guess it does kind of put you into that leading... It's not quite this way, but that kind of like leading question kind of fallacy. You know, like that classic, so have you stopped beating your wife kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because it seems by acknowledging their points in your thing, it almost sounds like your point isn't important anymore.
Yeah.
You know? By trying to provide a counter-argument before you make your argument, it seems like your argument's completely pointless.
Yeah, and people can go into certain things like conversations or debates and stuff with opinions already formed, and that's fine. But then we also have people that have opinions that are formed, and their sole purpose for listening to a debate or to start a debate is to prove the other opinion wrong without getting any knowledge back. And that's a huge issue. And we, like you said, we had that leading question fallacy where we ask like really strange questions of like, well, of course they can't answer this, and of course they can't defend this, and we don't stop to think of, well, what can they defend? Like, not everything is 100% good and 100% bad.
And yeah, that's the crazy part, because like I agree with you. I don't feel like your review should have to make counter arguments before you're able to make your argument. But if there are good counter arguments out there, I feel like you should address them, you know?
Yeah.
Just not before you're able to make your own points.
Yeah, like people, like you shouldn't have to clear the air to start a review, because there are movies now that have so much controversy surrounding the fan community that the only way to discuss them is to say that you are ignoring it right away, instead of just starting with something. You can't start on a pure opinion anymore. You have to filter out the fan community, and that gets harder and harder.
And like, since I know he isn't watching this because the man has like the most ridiculous film schedule and stuff I've ever seen, Captain Logan, every time he makes a video in which he wants to make an opinion piece like the Captain's Logs or whatever, he always starts by saying, now this is just me, or, you know, he always starts by, like, you know, giving himself an out. He has to play the politics of it, and he shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to play the politics of, this is what, people are asking me what I think about this, this is what I think about this. You shouldn't have to say, this is just what I think.
Yeah, exactly. He has the Dark Knight review, which is a really good review. And he starts it with like a good 5-10 minute introduction where he says that the fan opinion and what fans want him to say is not going to factor into it. And that's something that we should think is standard with a review, not something that you have to address.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Now make some more points from my head, please.
Okay, perfect. Let's see, more points from your head. Maybe we should talk a little bit about, because we're talking about like a lot of the negatives that come with geek culture. We talked a lot about some of the positives, but maybe like a good experience we've had with it, just personally, like we've done something on relating to social media that ultimately turned out better than you thought it would?
Well, I kind of already did that, but I can get another one going. So this is really silly, and it is just kind of the geek community thing, and it's one of those things Twitter's really good for. So Cap posted a tweet about how, Back to the Future 2 is set in 2014, right?
15, I think.
Okay, yeah. Or is it 17?
No, it's 15.
Okay, so it's set in 2015. And he's like, all we need, it looks like we have those Nikes now, so we just got a couple other technologies we got to get before we're ready for the world of Back to the Future 2. And so I replied to him with, yeah, just like, a few more things, like fusion. And he replies with something else, and then suddenly, within the next 15 minutes, there's a list of all the technologies that need to come out in the next 2 years to make Back to the Future 2 accurate. Like holographic movie posters.
We're almost there. We are almost there.
There's just like all these things, and it just happened spur of the moment. There was no planning, and there's like 17 people throwing in all these things that need to happen. These major leaps in technology. And it's not the obvious stuff like flying cars. No, there's all this crazy shit, and it was hilarious. So that was a really good experience, because it was on like a geeky subject, and something that only geeks would get. And it happened on social media, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention is that I got to talk to Ed Brubaker a little bit. Sorry, what'd you say?
I said cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to talk to Ed Brubaker a little bit, and he was talking about, like, his favorite Marvel works that he's ever done. And I asked him, like, what he thought about his Captain America, reflecting on it. And without, like, penalty of, like, interview politics or dumb news headlines, he got to freely say that, well, he really liked working on Captain America, but some of the Marvel-dictated actions made it less fun for him. So creators at a time get to be really honest about it, and you get to hear unpolitical, kind of just free opinions, and no one's going to make a big deal out of them because they're just making conversation.
And that's actually something that I think couldn't be jumped onto real quick. I recently had a meeting at my work, at the studio. And let me tell you how lucky I was to go to this meeting. Because it was on a Wednesday, a day that I never worked there, and I just happened to go in because I'd forgotten something there on the weekend, and I wanted to pick it up and then head home. So I picked it up, and I was walking out of the building to the parking lot, and I see my boss and go, "Hey, Dan." It's like, "Hey, you here for the meeting?" No, I'm just came here to pick this up. It's like, "Well, it's a 2 o'clock mandatory meeting, so you're right on time." Like, oh, lucky me. So we go in the building, and, we're sitting around, this fucking meeting, and blah, blah, blah. We get to the section of the meeting on social media, since, we're a broadcasting thing, and they're, on-air people and stuff. And their rule is, you cannot say anything on social media that you wouldn't say on air. And I found that really interesting, because, like, I really hope that doesn't take over for a lot of people with, professional, like, lives. Like, I hope actors and writers and artists and stuff don't start to have to do that in relation to their companies that they're working with or for.
Well, that is really interesting you mentioned that, because the first thing, when we had, at least in my school, we had this briefing on business etiquette. And the first thing they told us to do is make sure that no one can see your Facebook that isn't a friend, never friend any of your bosses, and make sure that you don't post anything on any social media that you wouldn't say in front of a boss or a higher up. Because companies now have software that scan through your social media sites as long as they're public, and they can do hire or fire people based on some of the some opinions that might reflect badly on the company.
Yeah.
And it's kind of scary that that's a thing. because
very Orwellian, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, exactly. It's kind of terrifying because not only do we have to censor our opinions sometimes, but we can't even be like public or open in the public or in the open.
Well, like, what's crazy about that is it's taking away the ability to bitch about your boss, which is, I feel, one of the most fundamental human rights.
It should have been in common sense and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that really should be part of the Geneva Convention. Everyone has the right, the basic fundamental human right to bitch about their boss. Because without that, you're not really a person. If you've never had a job where you had an annoying boss that you complained about with your coworkers, then I sincerely doubt you've lived a full life. Or you're just really rich, in which case,
lucky you.
You're not a human being at that point. You're a big pile of money. And even then, I'm sure there's someone that you could bitch about, and we just wouldn't care because you're rich.
Oh, of course.
No, but I think that's something that's wrong. I don't think a company should be able to fire you for voicing an opinion on social media, because this is that whole right to privacy thing. And, like, the courts have really kind of missed what I think the point of social media is, in ruling that, if you post it online, then you have no reason to think that it should remain private. I'm like, no, that's not what it is at all. You're posting it to share with people that you know, not everyone in the world. It just happens that the website is designed that way, and you didn't think of that.
Well, I mean, that's always an angle people can hold against you, right? Like, if you complain about someone taking your ID or someone, like, having action against you because something you post on social media, then what they'll hold against you is that, you shared it with the entire world, and at that point it no longer becomes yours.
Uh-huh.
And it's really like that whole publishing a work thing. Like, when a writer publishes a work, it's no longer his, it's everyone's.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me wonder if maybe courts should even start talking about how whatever you post on social media, you have a copyright to.
Huh.
Which would get kind of extreme, but what if people have, like, entire concepts they pitch on Twitter?
Yeah.
The guy who writes Samurai Jack for IDW, he always talks about, like, how he writes comics and stories he's wanted to do, and I know people like Jim Steranko told lavish stories about what they've wanted to do or what they've done or things they never got on paper. And it's always going to be their idea because people will always bring it back to, well, no, you didn't say that, Jim Steranko did, or Joss Whedon did, or whatever. But at what point is it theirs and at what point is it everyone's else? And where should we draw the line in social media being public? Like, how public is social media?
Yeah, and, like, I know one other thing that I heard. Was it Louis C.K.? It might have been. I can't remember off the top of my head who said this, but, like, they're really offended that journalists will use Twitter as an official quote. And, like, when you think about it, yeah, because it's not meant to be, this serious face platform, It's meant to just be this, like, little, place to complain in a lot of ways, or share an idea. It's not meant to be your public statement for the world. It's meant to be, okay, these are the people that want to know what I think. They're, in a certain respect, close to me in that way. This is for them. It's not for everybody in the universe to have. So, I don't know. It's strange how that level of ownership enters into social media.
Yeah, because that's always a really big issue with ideas and published work, and even now, like, one of the major fields to get into with law is, like, copyrights and intellectual property, because we don't know where to draw the lines on a lot of those. And it gets even more complicated.
Rap probably fucked that up.
Yeah, and it gets even more complicated with some of this stuff, because you can post I've seen people do this, and they're very bad, but they do it anyway, but they post entire short stories they've written, or novels they've written on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And then they get upset if someone steals a line from it, and you wonder, like, how much claim do they have on that line? And is there a case to be made?
Yeah, actually, to your point, I don't think plagiarism exists on the internet, though. Because you put it on the internet, and I feel like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm not. Just trust me, I'm not.
As long as you're sure.
Yeah, like, alright, so you haven't received an email from me, but anyone that ever has, if I've forgotten to delete my auto-generated signature, which I don't know how to get rid of anymore, then at the bottom it will say, coming up with excuses for killing people is a waste of time that could be spent killing people.
I hope you never send that to a professor at some point.
I think I have.
Oh, wow.
Several times.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and the thing is, I got that from a fan film. It was a line the Joker said, and I love it.
It's a good line.
Yeah, it really is. And at the same time, I will eventually use that in something. And if the person that wrote it really wants to get at me, I'm like, dude, come on. You posted your thing on YouTube, you did a fan film, it's over. You cannot say that you own this thing. But at the same time, I'm not using it against him to try to say this represents your views entirely. You know?
Yeah, I guess then there's a whole thing about, like, what's the line between reference and quotings and just straight up taking lines, and where are the lines of intertextuality, and that's a whole nother topic.
There's a guy, his name's Kirby something or other.
Jack Kirby?
No.
We don't talk
about
him.
Sorry to disappoint you. No, his name's Kirby something or other, and he did a series of videos that I really enjoyed called Everything's a Remix.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, I referenced that in my video called Been Done, which deals with the idea that anything you could possibly think has already been thought of, and better than you could ever think of it. And that's a very frustrating feeling. Happens a lot, particularly in philosophy.
Yeah. That's kind of the root of it, isn't it, when you're a student?
Yeah, it's really annoying when you think of, like, this amazing thing, and then you find out that someone else has already not only done it, but done it significantly better. And
you will arrive at existentialism like 6 times in your lifetime before you ever learn about it.
Yeah, and you want to know the one thing, like, one saving grace that I had in this?
Sure.
Is that I realized I was not the first person to have realized this. There are several quotes that I do that are, like, clearly talking about this idea. But I'm the first person to give it a name. Remix a haptology.
Remix haptology.
Yep.
Isn't that really just like another way of saying intertextuality, though?
No. Not at all. Because it's the specific... It's a word for the specific feeling you get when you realize that something you thought was your own idea has been done by someone else better than you did it. So there's the specific definition of remix a haptology, and I've heard other students use it, because the professor that I wrote that paper for and did a video on plays that video in her classes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, and I've heard other students use it, so that's very cool.
That's really cool.
Hopefully it becomes a thing.
Copyright it right away.
Hashtag remix a haptology. There's something that we haven't gotten into. Hashtags.
Oh, hashtags. I hate hashtags.
Really? I love hashtags.
I love hashtags when you use hashtags where they belong. When you use hashtags on Twitter to link certain ideas together. Like, you're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, so hashtag Guardians of the Galaxy. I hate people speaking in hashtags. I hate hashtags of irrelevant words. And I hate writing sentences as if it was a hashtag.
Okay, I agree there, but, like, my favorite thing is when hashtags are jokes, or, like, punchlines specifically.
Right.
You know, like, the classic one was hashtag winning, and that actually, you know, when it's in that
Charlie
style. Yeah, when it's in that meme style, but that's like, oh, that's just kind of eh. But I love when people put, like, hashtag, and it's hilarious, just because the hashtag is there. So I'm trying to think of one, and of course, you know, it's so in the moment that I really rarely ever can.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example where I did it, and I at least thought it was hilarious. This isn't so much funny, but, like, once I'm gonna put DJ talks through the intro of a song and the outro of a song. Hashtag things that make me want to kill people.
No, I see where you're coming from on that. I guess where I'm more leaning when it comes to hashtags is something like you're writing a statement about, like, I don't know, like work sucks, and then you hashtag kind of like your name life or something like that, like like I really hate my boss, hashtag Steve's life, something like that. Like, where it's completely irrelevant, you're not tying into any ideas, you're just hashtagging it there to say something that doesn't sound proper.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the hashtag's been, like, really oversaturated in a lot of ways.
It totally has.
Like, my girlfriend watches Pretty Little Liars, which I hope she's not watching at this point, but I'm pretty sure she knows I feel this way. It is god-awful.
It is. My sister watches it.
Yeah, it is Desperate Housewives with teenagers.
It's so bad.
But anyway, the thing that they constantly have up in the corner of the screen is hashtag this random thing that just happened.
Well,
hashtag go Arya go. Hashtag Allie's back. Hashtag horses. Like, what are you even doing?
I mean, movies do it all the time now, right? Like, at the end, when you get the movie title, the last thing you see before the date's like a hashtag with something to describe the title or the premise of the movie.
Yeah, hashtag Dawn of Apes.
Yeah, hashtag Dawn of Apes. Like, there's a whole bunch of, like, hashtags with GOTG for Guardians.
Yeah, like, are we gonna start getting shorter movie titles simply to, like, feed the hashtag machine?
I mean, I think so. I think there's a legitimate topic in there of, like, we're designing entertainment so that it works better with social media.
And I'm not sure if that's a bad thing or not. Because, by and large, I like social media, but I can see where that gets very problematic very quickly.
It's all in the marketing, I would say. Because if a director has a vision, and he makes a movie, and it's got a long title that has a point, and marketing says, we can't sell this movie unless you make the title shorter, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, like, something like Inception works. Inception was, you know, like, Twitter wasn't quite the thing it is now at that point, but, you know...
No, like 2010, it wasn't exploding the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's pre-Arab Spring, which is, like, really what made Twitter valid, I think.
What got it to be more mainstream, at a risk of sounding like a hipster.
Yeah, no, but, like, Inception was a good example of that, because people would put hashtag Inception or hashtag bong.
Yeah.
And that was really fun, and those were really entertaining. And so you can get something that, you know, one-word title movies really do lend themselves to social media in ways that things like Ian and Bobby's Epic Quest to Write a Movie doesn't. And I like long titles, not only because they tell you what they're about, but because they can be entertaining in and of themselves.
Like, one of my favorite, not long, but kind of long titles, is, like, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Because it gets right to the heart of the question and the center of the piece, but it's not really Twitter-friendly.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, to be fair, Dawn of Apes isn't the title of the fucking movie.
No, it's not.
And, like, people are like, oh, let's just get rid of the fucking franchise names. No! Because Planet of the Apes is a very important title for anything that deals with Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, every movie needs to have that continued title.
It has to be in there because it's very central to the themes.
I mean, it's almost a tradition at this point, right? Like, part of the novelty of watching Planet of the Apes movies is that you get cool, ridiculous titles. And then to just get rid of that because of marketing seems like the wrong reason. To get rid of it because it doesn't make sense anymore, that's different.
No, it totally makes sense still, though. I at least I think it does.
Yeah, I like the titles, so.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to get into, or you feel like we can wrap up?
Nothing that hits me immediately now.
Okay. Let's go ahead and give final thoughts on social media's effect on geek culture. I'm gonna say it has been overwhelmingly positive, but we are still in a very teething phase of it, where like you said, there are problems, but I think those are going to go away as the technology increases in use and familiarity, which is a word I'm having trouble saying right now, so I'm not going to try to say it again. Among its users. So I think as it becomes more and more popular and more fundamental to a lot of things, it'll either die out because it's oversaturated, or it'll like streamline and get just a lot easier to use. And I'm hoping for the second there. But overall, I think the effects of social media on geek culture have been very positive.
I think it's been a half and half, really. Part of the thing with this topic is I'd address it the same way you address things like 9/11 in history, which is it's a thing that happened and it's really important, but its effects are still so widespread and we can't anticipate them all that we shouldn't have any definitive say on it just yet. It's something that's still causing chain reactions. It's something that still is evolving at itself. So it's really hard to say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing just yet, because it's doing both. And when we get to 50 years from now, and we've had lawsuits that set precedent for copyrights on Twitter accounts, or death threats over Twitter, or just maybe even degeneration of language through shortened speech. When we have a historical basis for it, it's going to be easier to talk about. But as of right now, it's a really evolving idea, and it's got a lot of positives, and the negatives seems to outshine them because they're more controversial. But there's a lot of good, and there's a lot that we need in entertainment, like being able to talk to creators and to kind of bring them down to our level and make them a bit more humble, which is something that no one talks about enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy social media and what it's done to geek culture. I don't enjoy the really antagonistic relationship people have now, but I think that's something we can phase out of after a certain point.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking too. I think that it will eventually level out, or if not go away completely.
Hopefully, yeah.
Just because, people don't... I genuinely think that people don't want to just fight each other or, legitimately anger each other. People want to argue, but that doesn't mean that they want to hate each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that right now we're in the middle of this, perceived war in geek culture, in social media a lot of times for different reasons. And I think that'll go away over time. As the culture evolves, finally realize that we're both winning. So, no matter what side you're on, you're winning.
Yeah. It's funny, I think you could even talk about it the whole thing with the Comics Code Authority when that happened is a really good parallel for McCarthyism. And I think that this current trend of geek culture and this kind of pseudo-war is going to eventually go down as a cool parallel to the Cold War. Because it seems like that. It seems like this weird proxy war we're getting with Marvel and DC.
Okay. Alright, so good video, Steve. Good video. Thanks for this. Sorry Milan wasn't here, everyone. I'm sure you would have loved to hear his thoughts. I would have.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear Milan talk about Twitter since he resisted it for so long.
Yeah, I want to hear his story about what happened when you got him to start it.
He did a video where he's, bitching about the fact that I made him get a Twitter.
That's hilarious. I need to track that down.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway. So, Steve, before we started this show, you asked me what my topic pick was going to be, and I told you that I didn't want to tell you.
Right.
because I wanted to get your genuine reaction. So you're ready to give me your genuine reaction?
I am.
Audience, are you ready for Steve's general reaction?
I think they said yes.
Okay. You ready, Steve?
I am.
Next week on Geeky, gentlemen, we will be reviewing Planet of the Apes. But here's the thing. We've already done the original. I just posted a review of the new one.
Oh, God.
Yep, you know where I'm going with
God.
this, don't you? We're reviewing the 2004 film by Tim Burton, The Planet of the Apes.
Oh, God, why'd you have to say that? Oh, man. I might just have to pull an excuse to say I can't show up next Friday.
No, you're making it, because I want to hear you react to this movie.
Oh, man. I was not mentally ready for this, you know? I was talking to you, I was watching Pacific Rim on the side, and, oh. This is painful. I don't know if I can watch it. I will try, but there's no guarantee.
You're gonna have to suffer through it. That's the point of Geeky Gentlemen, is you're gonna have to watch things you don't want to sometimes.
Just for that, when I do my debate topic, we're gonna do a video on, like, all of the flaws in Dark Knight Rises or something. just to get back at it. We'll talk about how CGI could be detrimental to film or something. Just anything you would
I don't
hate.
mind talking. No, I don't mind talking about that at all. That's actually a really good topic.
Sounds interesting. That will not be my topic, but yeah.
Steve's just like, why I hate Ian now?
I'm gonna devise my plan to kill you pretty soon.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
This will be fun. This will be great.
We might even do it as a commentary if we can.
You know, I almost would prefer that. If we just, like, did a commentary, that'd be awesome.
The thing about it, though, is if we did it as a commentary... See, you say that now, but if we do it as a commentary, I'm going to demand that we all watch it once before we watch it together.
No, I think we'd almost have to. Like, I don't think you could do a commentary on a movie you haven't already seen.
Yeah, so... I don't know, you say you'd want to do that, but do you really want to watch the movie twice?
If it means the second time I get to make fun of it along with it, yeah.
Okay, we might consider doing it that way. I don't love commentaries because I think they're kind of, I don't know, I'm just not good at them. I want to spend too much time talking about what's going on screen. You're not supposed to do that, apparently.
No, that's fair. But they can be really fun too.
What I'll do is I'll like go rent it or something, and we'll start the video once the movie starts, and we'll end the video once the movie's over, so it can serve as a commentary.
Okay.
That should be good. No, the reason for this is I've just been like, you know, ever since Dawn, I've just been really into Planet of the Apes again, and I was watching, like someone was doing a list of things you didn't know about Planet of the Apes, and somewhere on that, something about the Tim Burton film popped up, and then they played a clip from it, and I've only seen that movie, like, when it had just come out.
Right.
And they played a clip from it, and then apparently there's orangutan sex. I'm like, I need to watch this now. So,
there's so much in that movie you wish you could forget.
So no, we're watching this now, and we're all going to suffer together.
We are. I'll make sure we suffer. I'll bring the pistol.
Okay. All right, so everyone, that should be a lot of fun. I hope you guys get to enjoy our pain.
Yes. Feed on our suffering. Feed on it.
Schadenfreude, everybody. Schadenfreude. So, until next time, I'm the philosopher.
And I'm the politician.
Okay, there we go.
We got something.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.